Why does the modern world look out into the stars while remaining completely blind to what lies directly beneath our feet? Deep beneath the heavy, shifting crust of our planet, massive geological scars remain entirely untouched by the light of the sun. For centuries, historical archives whispered of bottomless abysses that swallowed whole expeditions, leaving no traces behind. When modern science finally attempted to map these deep rifts, they encountered anomalies that broke known physical laws. Massive stone structures, completely symmetrical and vastly predating human history, were found carved into the raw tectonic dark. Instead of exploring further, elite research teams suddenly sealed the perimeters and left, refusing to ever speak of them again. We begin our dark descent in the freezing, wind-swept vastness of Siberia, where the Earth bears a terrifying artificial scar. The legendary Kola Frost Chasm plunges over 12 kilometers into the freezing mantle, a silent monument to human desperation. Originally, decades of drilling were meant to conquer the lithosphere, advancing steadily into the absolute pitch-black void. But at the absolute nadir of the abyss, the natural geothermal gradient suddenly experienced an impossible, massive thermal spike. Deep Earth acoustic sensors did not record the grinding of shifting continental plates, but a heavy, rhythmic biological pulse. A profound, terrifying stillness followed, as if something ancient in the deep abyss had suddenly realized it was being watched. The entire operation was abandoned overnight, and a massive iron seal was welded over the opening to ensure eternal silence. Official geological reports blamed a lack of funding, yet confidential journals revealed an absolute, raw psychological terror. Look closely at the colossal cracked rock faces surrounding the sealed perimeter, where strange, petrified impressions still remain. Leaving the frozen north behind, we cross open waters to a terrifying liquid void hidden in the dark Atlantic. Dean's Blue Hole plunges instantly into an immense, dark indigo chasm, swallowing all light from the surface world. Historical maritime charts marked this precise geometric circle as a cursed zone where currents mysteriously died away. Modern deep-sea sonar mapping attempted to trace the limestone walls, but every acoustic signal vanished without a trace. Instead of a standard cavern floor, the radar arrays returned a perfect, mathematically impossible subterranean void. At exactly 80 meters down, a violent, unnatural counterpressure consistently repels every advanced mechanical probe. The surrounding ancient coral reefs show strange, unnatural fusion marks, as if exposed to immense primeval thermal energy. Naval authorities quietly classified the underlying topography, abruptly halting all public oceanographic research initiatives. What massive, submerged mechanism is drawing thousands of tons of salt water deep into the planetary mantle? Next, we travel to the scorching, cracked expanse of East Africa, where the lithosphere is actively tearing open. The Danakil Depression contains boiling sulfur abysses that expose the raw, unfiltered interior of our world. Early mid-century explorers discovered massive subterranean salt terraces that bore completely identical geometric fractures. Geologists recently extracted crystalline samples from these acid abysses, expecting completely barren, toxic mineral matter. Instead, they isolated unknown microbial life forms entirely devoid of any terrestrial DNA or cellular structures. The sudden confiscation of these seismic samples by international agencies left the global scientific community completely silent. From the burning fissures of Africa, we plunge deep into the absolute frozen isolation of the Arctic Circle. The Gekel Ridge remains completely buried beneath an immense, unbreakable shield of permanent polar sea ice. For generations, classic geological dogmas firmly stated this rift valley was an entirely dead seismic zone. Yet modern, ultra-sensitive acoustic sensors suddenly captured a massive series of continuous underwater tectonic explosions. Instead of expected tectonic shifts, hydrothermal sensors mapped a colossal chain of active deep-sea volcanoes. Superheated water mineral plumes are forcing highly anomalous, unidentified chemical compounds straight into the ocean. This completely isolated chemosynthetic ecosystem thrives independently, totally cut off from the light of our sun. Heavy icebreaker research vessels abruptly terminated their mapping paths, citing severe, unexplained magnetic instrument failures. We turn now to a monumental geological anomaly tearing deep into the rugged heartland of southwestern China. The Zhaozhai Tiangqing, known as the Heavenly Pit, drops vertically into an immense, breathtaking limestone abyss. Towering, sheer karst cliffs isolate an entire primeval ancient rainforest thriving completely unbothered at the bottom. Early botanical survey expeditions documented mutated plant species that vastly predate the current global evolutionary timeline. Strangely, all standard satellite positioning signals completely vanish the moment cameras look directly past the rim. The dense, ancient canopy completely conceals massive structural formations that geologists refuse to officially categorize. Government agencies quickly established restricted environmental buffer zones, leaving the massive structural secrets entirely uninvestigated. Leaving the silent forests of China, we turn our gaze to the immense, crushing depths of the Atlantic. The Puerto Rico Trench plunges over 8 kilometers downward, forming a massive, unstable oceanic plate boundary. Early mid-century naval bathyscaphe deployments recorded deep anomalous magnetic pullings originating near the floor. When hydrographic survey vessels deployed modern multi-beam sonar arrays, they mapped the Milwaukee Deep. Instead of a standard chaotic tectonic fracture, the bathymetry charts displayed perfectly aligned, straight parallel ridges. Deep-sea temperature sensors recorded sudden, massive hydrothermal fluctuations that defy localized volcanic distribution maps. Acoustic monitoring arrays captured low-frequency electromagnetic hums repeating in precise, mathematical intervals across the fault. Maritime security commands abruptly classified the local hydroacoustic log files, severing public institutional data feeds. What massive, buried geological anomaly is emitting rhythmic pulses straight through the core of the Atlantic? We now cross continents toward the dense, uncharted mountain jungles of Southeast Asia's interior. Hidden deep within limestone karsts lies an unmapped, massive subterranean river branch, feeding dark abysses. Spanning miles through the pitch-black lithosphere, this underground network remains entirely untouched by modern maps. Subterranean mapping drones recently attempted to trace the water path, but encountered massive, sheer vertical drop-offs. High-powered illumination arrays swept across the void, only to be completely swallowed by an endless darkness. The fast-flowing river drops straight into the planetary mantle, creating an unresolvable blind spot for modern science. From the deep underground rivers of Asia, we fly toward the vast, frozen desolation of southern Antarctica. The Bentley subglacial trench drops thousands of meters beneath an immense, crushing sheet of permanent ice. Early continental survey maps designated this massive polar valley as an entirely stable, ancient tectonic shield. When satellite radar arrays recently scanned the ice core layers, they detected an immense subglacial hollow zone. Instead of expected solid bedrock compression, data profiles revealed a gargantuan valley with completely uneven density. Advanced seismic sounding probes consistently shattered upon reaching the perimeter, halting all international drilling efforts entirely. Thermal sensors reported sudden, unexplained drops in pressure, leaving the global climate research teams completely baffled. The entire subglacial project was quietly defunded, leaving the colossal polar rift hidden permanently beneath the ice. We now cross back to the deep ocean slate currents of the vast and freezing Pacific. The Tonga Trench forms a massive vertical abyss plunging over 10 kilometers into the oceanic lithosphere. Early hydroacoustic logging records from the Cold War era noted weird, repeating electromagnetic signals down below. When research vessels deployed deep-sea autonomous benthic landers, their recording instruments failed at identical depths. The remaining operational telemetry files displayed massive, perfectly straight geological steps cut directly into the trench walls. Geological models cannot explain these highly symmetric, stepped basalt terraces occurring naturally across a convergent boundary. Naval mapping commands quickly secured the data loggers, locking away the deep oceanic mystery from public review. From the deep oceanic trenches, our investigation shifts toward the immense, frozen plateaus of the absolute sub-zero north. The massive North Greenland Eemian ice drilling rift cuts vertically down into ancient, unmapped glacial strata layers. Early paleoclimate mapping archives firmly classified this deep subglacial baseline as a completely homogeneous, compressed solid block. Yet modern ultra-deep ice core extractions recently encountered an immense, unexplainable subterranean shear zone deep within. Instead of expected continuous chronological ice accumulation, stratigraphy scanners mapped completely mismatched, melted crystalline lattice patterns. Subglacial thermal sensors recorded sudden, immense temperature spikes that contradict localized thermodynamic models of Greenland's crust. Deep electromagnetic sounding arrays captured low-frequency rhythmic oscillations, radiating outwards in precise mathematical geometric cycles. International Polar Security Directorates abruptly classified the raw digital telemetry files, shutting down open institutional database linkages. What massive buried geological anomaly is generating structured energy waves straight through the permanent polar ice shield? We turn now to a monumental geological fracture, scoring deep into the arid, windswept heartland of Western Australia. The tectonic abyss of the immense Diamantina Trench drops sheer into absolute darkness, slicing the Indian Ocean floor. Early automated benthic survey lines recorded severe, localized gravitational distortions, pulling instruments away from the central axis. When marine geophysical vessels deployed advanced deep-tow sonar arrays, they mapped an incredibly complex subterranean topography. Instead of standard eroded volcanic debris, bathymetry visualization programs displayed massive, perfectly square stone-gray basalt blocks. Oceanographic agencies quietly withdrew their deep-sea research funding, leaving the colossally sharp subsurface architectural lineaments completely uninvestigated. Leaving the silent stone-gray blocks of Australia, we journey to the vast, windswept plains of southern Patagonia. The massive tectonic tier of the hidden Patagonia abyss cuts sheer down through dense, ancient granite bedrock. For generations, traditional geographic archives firmly cataloged this remote southern valley as a completely inert plateau. Yet modern ultra-deep radar satellite scans recently identified a gargantuan, hollow chamber network branching far beneath. Instead of expected compressed volcanic sediment, stratigraphic mapping models calculated highly symmetric, hollow geometric voids. Every seismic testing probe deployed near the main perimeter abruptly fractured, shutting down international surveying efforts. Geothermal sensors reported sudden, unexplainable atmospheric drops inside the rifts, leaving environmental scientists completely baffled. The entire regional project was quietly locked away, keeping the colossal tectonic secret permanently behind strict blockades. We now cross open waters toward the dark, deep ocean slate currents of the South Atlantic. The South Sandwich Trench forms a monumental vertical abyss plunging over 8 kilometers into the crust. Early subsurface sonar logging runs from mid-century naval expeditions logged highly erratic magnetic fields down deep. When polar marine research platforms deployed automated benthic scanners, their data recovery systems crashed at identical markers. The surviving telemetry files displayed an array of perfectly flat, aligned basalt steps cut into trench faces. Oceanographic structural dynamic models cannot explain these massive, sharp geometric terraces occurring naturally along a fault line. Naval intelligence data centers promptly seized the original recordings, completely hiding the deep subsurface anomaly from view. Leaving the sealed naval archives of the Atlantic, we steer toward the absolute frozen limits of the dark planet. The massive, subglacial rift of the hidden Wilkes Land anomaly cuts down directly through ancient cratonic crust. For decades, traditional polar maps cataloged this specific polar basin as a completely uniform, dead ice mass. Yet modern ultra-sensitive satellite gravity scanners recently pinpointed an immense, dense gravitational concentration deep within. Instead of a standard meteor crater profile, geological density models calculated massive, perfectly circular nested stone rings. Every advanced hot water drill assembly attempting to reach the upper boundary suffered sudden structural torque failures. Thermal sensors reported an unexplainable, intense thermal energy dispersion radiating from the deep subterranean center outward. International space tracking commands abruptly classified the underlying geophysical data, cutting off open institutional server pathways. What massive, buried continental anomaly is warping local gravitational fields straight through kilometers of dense polar ice? We now cross back to the scorching, highly toxic volcanic fissures of the East African Rift. The Dalal hydrothermal abyss forms a monumental landscape of boiling acid terraces piercing the dry planetary crust. Early century mineral survey logs noted incredible, localized atmospheric pressure distortions directly above the central vents. When environmental research platforms deployed automated seismic recording landers, their mechanical telemetry loops crashed at baseline. The remaining recovered data profiles displayed an array of perfectly square, symmetrical crystalline pillars lining the chasm. Geochemical structural dynamic models cannot explain these highly geometric mineral towers forming naturally within an active volcano. Leaving the boiling acid pillars of Africa, we cross vast expanses to a silent, ancient valley in North America. The Grand Canyon holds a colossal hidden cave system dropping vertically into an unmapped, deep geological void. Early turn-of-the-century newspaper archives published wild testimonies of an immense subterranean labyrinth containing unusual artifacts. When modern geological survey teams deployed advanced aerial radar mapping, they detected a massive, hollow cavern matrix. Instead of expected natural limestone erosion patterns, radar echoes outlined perfectly square, carved stone chambers deep underground. Every seismic drilling assembly, attempting to penetrate the surrounding rock layers, suffered sudden, unexplained diamond tip fractures. Acoustic mapping probes reported a complete, terrifying absence of natural resonant frequencies inside the primary structural void. Federal park authorities promptly sealed the local canyon perimeters permanently, cutting off all independent exploratory access paths. What monumental, buried prehistoric structure is hiding in plain sight within the deep strata of the canyon? We now cross the open Atlantic toward the deep ocean slate currents bordering the Mediterranean basin. The Hellenic Trench forms a monumental undersea abyss, plunging over 5 kilometers down into the eastern crust. Early historical deep-sea soundings from mid-century marine expeditions logged highly anomalous magnetic pullings along the fault line. When oceanographic research vessels deployed automated benthic sonar arrays, their digital data networks crashed at identical markers. The remaining operational telemetry files displayed an array of perfectly smooth vertical basalt steps cut directly inside. Structural geology models completely fail to explain these highly symmetrical stepped rock terraces occurring naturally along the rift. 10 tectonic abysses split across our Earth, keeping 10 massive, dark planetary secrets completely out of human reach. We constantly look outward into interstellar space, yet remain entirely blind to the titanic voids directly beneath us. As advanced seismic tracking technology improves, more anomalous architectural structures will inevitably force their way to light. Subscribe to Atlas Mystery of Chronicles, leave your thoughts below, and prepare for our next deep planetary investigation. This documentary is for education only, based on real sources. Theories are not facts.